Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. I'm going to try something a little different this time. This is a game that was played. This isn't a world-class game or from a famous tournament. It was played at my chess center here on Sunday, November 29th, 2015, at the 63rd Binghamton Open. And it's between two players, Christian Teoli. He's new. He lives in western New York, in farm country. It's beautiful there. And my buddy Bobby McGuinness is black. Bob is a judge and has been playing in my tournaments for years, and he's a really good guy. When I go through the game, this isn't a criticism of anybody. Christian is a brand new player, and he's already about 1,400 already. And Bob's about 1,560 in rating. I like this because I don't do many amateur games, and number two, I think the ending is very instructive. So if you'll stick with me here, Christian is white and Bobby McGuinness is black. It's going to be at French. Let's go to the first few moves. Knight f3. Now that's the last book move. Well, we're not grandmasters, so we're not going to go a 15 move in theory. C takes. Knight takes. Bishop b4. Okay. Black's a little behind in development. White's got two nice bishops there. But all he has to do is move the knight on g8 and he can castle. He should be okay. Bishop d3. Just to reinforce the pawn, because if you play pawn takes, knight can't take because of that. So bishop d3. Pawn takes. Bishop takes. e5. Basically dead even game. Bob decides to move Christian decides to move the knight to e2. Give you an idea. We got knight there instead. After bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, king takes, knight f6. Bishop checks, knight checks, king over, bishop takes, knight takes, a5. That was basically a computer scenario. Now, how the hell in the world are you going to see that far ahead? After knight d to e2, queen takes, king takes. Might lose the right to castle, but I don't think it's the end of the world in this case. I still think he's okay. Computer's got a small advantage for black, about 2/3 of a pawn. Knight to f6. So where to put the bishop? All three moves on the computer are all about the same. One as f3, bishop d3, bishop e3. Bob decides to go to f3. Castles. Bishop d2. Just so it wouldn't take the pawn. Takes, doubles these pawns. Knight c6. Computer likes a3, kicking the bishop. Rook e1. Knight e4. Christian decided to go bishop e3. Now he has the knight guarding the other knight on c3. As Rex Singfield from the Chess Club at the Scholastic Center in St. Louis calls it, those knights are redundant. They're hitting on each other instead of carding other squares. Rook to d8 check. There's a free tempo there, causing the movement of the king. Now this, poor rook is buried. Bishop g4. Decided to trade a little bit. Interesting might have been instead is rook to d1. This is a computer suggestion. And after rook takes, king takes, rook d8, king goes to e1 instead. Naturally, of course, you're printing your own knight, but it's not the end of the world. Bishop f5, bishop takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, rook a8. That was the computer scenario. After bishop takes, knight takes. Now, Christian's a new player, so I don't want to criticize him too much. This happens sometimes with new players. We're on move 14. He's nervous. This is his first tournament. He made a move that wasn't the greatest in the world. He decided to go B3. And, you know, it's funny, even I do it too, so I'm not throwing any stones. You see a move when you're playing, and it looks like a reasonable move, and you look at it later and go, what the heck was I thinking? And he decided to go B3. And that's going to cause some problems. Or it should. Computer liked A3 instead. Then after bishop comes back, rook to D1. And I think it's an advantage for white, or for black, no question about it. But it's not the end of the world. After B3, Bob plays the correct move. Knight takes, pawn takes, bishop A3 check, forcing the king over. And this is a move the computer really didn't like very much. When you see you got somebody else's king on the run, you want to be as aggressive as you can. He's going to go after the isolated pawn on E3. Computer really likes A6 for black. I'm not going to go into details why. That's a move that I don't think any human would make, especially at our level. Rook to D2 is the second choice in the computer, and I agree with that. Bob decided to go bishop C5, going after the isolated pawn. If he had gone A6 as the computer suggested, and after knight to C1, rook D2, knight D3, it's a huge advantage for black. Almost over, now the computer ticks on an over 4-point advantage. It's easy to miss. Nothing against Bobby. He's a good guy. He was just going after what I thought was the human move, going after the isolated E-pawn. So after bishop C5, white miscues. King to B2 is the choice of the computer. And he went E4. White's a little cramped up here. If he had gone king to B2 instead, bishop takes, rook A to D1. Now you give up that pawn to open up the game a little bit for you. Sometimes you have to do that. You have to give up a pawn to pick up a tempo, open up your game a little bit. I think that was worth sacrificing that pawn for. But after E4, rook to D2, the obvious move. King comes up. Now the rooks are finally connected. Knight to D4. Bob's coming in for the kill here. Now that pawn on C2 is in deep trouble. He's got to take. Bishop takes. If rook had taken instead, rook A to D1. And it's almost an even game. So Bob made the right move. Bishop takes. He went rook A to D1 anyway. Now right now it's almost a 3-point advantage for black. I mean, look at this. This poor knight is pinned. And he can't move the king, so it takes away the protector of the knight. Rook takes the pawn. H4. White's in tough shape here. The only way he can move the king, if he moves the pawn here, moves the king here, and that's wasting a lot of tempos. Computer like B4, just as I had suggested. Rook C8, rook D3, guarding the knight, and then G6. But after H4, rook to C8, hitting the knight, natural move. Now he comes up with rook to H3. That's what the H4 move is for. He brings the rook into the game. Rook to E2. Can't take the rook, of course, because the knight is pinned. What to do? What to do? You're in a tough spot here. What do you do? Believe it or not, the computer likes king to B1. Or king to C1. Or king A3. Just move the king out of that pin. But you see what will happen here. Say the king moves here. You can play bishop takes, rook takes, rook takes, And the rook mates. So it's not a free piece. Rook takes the bishop. Now, I think he should have moved his king, but you know, he's a young guy. It's his first tournament. He's getting a little panicky. Now, he didn't see that mate. So he decided to do was just get rid of that bishop. Pawn takes. Knight takes. Rook e8. Now, it's a 3-point advantage for white just like that. Let's go back a couple of moves here. 3-point advantage for black. Pawn takes. What he should have done, going to the computer, is rook takes c2 check. Which is a really clever move. As you can see, if rook takes check, the king has to take. He doesn't really have to, but then he's going to lose this here. If king takes, pawn takes, and the knight is frozen, he's going to get his piece back. But instead he played pawn takes. That's tough. That's a tough error. And that's easy to miss. Poor Bobby. I'll tell you, I've lost to him before, so... I was up a queen for a rook, I think a queen for a piece. And ended up losing the game to him in one of the Broome County Championships. So, we all do it. Like I said, rook takes, king takes, pawn takes. That's a huge advantage for black. Huge. But after e takes, knight takes, rook to there, rook d3. 2.5 point advantage. He's up a knight for a pawn. Now this is where we get towards the end game here. I think it's instructive. Rook takes. Rook takes. You see rook can't take because it's mate. Rook takes, knight takes. 5 pawns against 4 with an extra knight. That's tough duty. But let's see what happens here. g6. Now white is a young guy. I say Christian's probably, I might guess 13 years old. It's his first tournament. He's a nice kid. His dad's a really cool guy. We talked for a long time. They're just nice parents. King up. F5. Now Bobby's thinking, okay, let me see if I get my pawns rolling. Maybe I can get my king in there and cause some damage. I got to try something. King d3. King f7. Here comes the king. So they're coming up with their kings. King f4. h6. He's looking to go g5, push his pawns down. Knight to f3. King e6. Checks. Puts the king back. c4. Gonna get his own pawns rolling. Black decides to go g5, check, pawn takes, pawn takes. King has to back off. King e5. He's got to get aggressive. Like I said, he's an inexperienced player. Bob's pushing. He's trying for a draw, I think. I think in his mind he was going to do is this knight would take both of these pawns, and he would lose the knight, and it would be 3-2, and his king can come back and try to draw it. But when knight to e2, b6, king, a5, a3, f4 check. Bob's still pushing. King f3, king f5, b4. Now let's go back here. Before b4, it's an almost 4-point advantage for white. Knight to c3. Basically seals it. He goes b4 instead. And now it's only 1-point advantage for white. If he got knight to c3 instead, where they can't move any of the pawns. Yeah, he can check on g4, big deal. He'll just back up and the knight will come back around. The knight can come here. The knight can jump in anywhere in here, and in here, to here. it's over. But b4 instead, he didn't think it out. Now he was short on time. He had basically 5 minutes left. g4 check, king comes back. Now folks, the score is basically tied. It's only a half-point advantage for white. Pawn takes, even that passed pawn there. King e5. Now he's going to come over and pick up both of these pawns. Figure the knight can take these two pawns, and the game is drawn. Knight takes. Knight c3 again is computer's choice. And once king goes to d4, it's basically drawn anyway. So he decided to take the pawn. He figures the king can't take because he can push. But not really. He says he go king to d4. Very human move on Bob's part. Now it's back to a 5-point, almost a 5-point advantage for white. These endings can be trickier than hell. King g3. King takes. Now it's drawn. Let's go back here. What would you do here as white? What's the winning move? It's hard to see. Hard to see. The move is c5. You go, okay, pawn takes. And then pawn goes to b5. And it's over. He can't catch the white pawn. His own pawn, when he captured here, is blocking his way. He can't come here because the knight's guarding that spot. And white wins. But he goes king to g3, king takes, king takes, king takes, knight d5, it's drawn, king takes, knight takes, king takes, and it's a draw. I thought it was a great game for amateur players. I thought the ending was very instructive. Granted, Christian, as white, had a little time pressure towards the end, but it went back and forth, and those are great games to watch. Well, there you have it, folks. Round 2 of the 63rd Binghamton Open. I hope you enjoyed it. I know Christian said he was going to look on my YouTube channel, so Christian, feel free to make some comments. And what I always say at the end of all my videos, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.